What is up? We are back with another episode of AI Thoughts Online. I am the host, Tennisha Martin, and I am super excited to be speaking with my co-host today, Nicholas Berry Jr. Right? How are you doing today,
Yes,
sir?
I'm doing well. It's a pleasure actually finally getting with you to discuss AI. I know we've been like hit or miss, but the way I see it is it's always God's timing. So
Hey,
what a perfect time. It's like the second month of the new year. So it's only right with everything going on. So I'm
and
glad to
and
be here.
and I get the added co-host here today, so I'm very
Ye-
excited to have her as well. So,
Yes.
future AI specialist in the world.
Yep.
All
She's
right.
already working on it.
So, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, what you do.
So my background is pretty much I've been at IT for over 25 plus years. I started out as the Geek Squad way back then with Best Buy, and then I got into a lot of government contracting. I advanced pretty much in the IT space. And what I always tell people is don't be afraid to start off at the help desk because that's the constitutional knowledge that you need to actually be able to get to the high levels of being an architect or even like an AI engineer because you need to know the basics on troubleshooting to get to where you need to go. So I've been through all of the different levels of IT. Currently, I'm a principal AI engineer and an AI slash generalist. And I run my own agency. It's an AI agency. And also, I work on a couple government contracts, helping them get into the AI space and actually transition them to using AI agents.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about that. I think that the general topic that we're going to be talking about are some of the, I guess, historical uses of learning
Mhm.
and AI, some of the present things going on, and then what you think that the future is going to look like. You've been doing this for a while, I think you said, right?
Yes, yes. Generalizing IT cloud infrastructure over 20 years. And what I tell people is before you know the AI space, you just gotta think about it. It actually lies on infrastructure. AI is just not something that's like out there. Everything lies on top of the infrastructure. So I got into the infrastructure space, Azure, AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and then I went to a company called Ensemble Health, and that's when I got into machine learning. And the way we utilize machine learning there was we was utilizing it to act as like a client base, like a client coming in, working and doing things through the application. So that's the scratch work of where my first machine learning experience came from and artificial intelligence experience came from. Because a lot of people don't realize like artificial intelligence grew out of machine learning. So pretty much that's the foundation of it. And then I went to the Drug Enforcement Agency, DEA, and I worked on a classified network with one of the systems. And I'm not gonna go too in depth on the system, but it was almost like so pretty much we scanned the dark web
Mhm.
and we had machine learning acting as an agent, a DEA agent, and it would do certain details, and it would use cryptocurrency to fulfill those details. And then we had another system that tracked phones and license plates through machine learning.
That's dope. Yeah, a lot of folks think that AI pretty much just popped up, out of nowhere a couple of years ago, and
Mm,
I think that a lot of them don't realize that machine learning and some version of what AI is, or just the concept of it's been around for I think many decades at this point.
yes.
There's been a lot of different work that's been done in those areas. I actually took a course last semester on machine learning, and I
Mm,
was like, yo, I'm glad that they make this course like required learning, because I think it takes it back a level that you don't necessarily see if you're just interacting with, LLMs and AI agents as it is today, because if
yes.
all you ever know of it is the aspect of how people are using it today in the many different use cases, I
Mhm,
don't think that the capabilities that's possible, or why people are like absolutely losing their mind.
mhm,
I think I saw the other day that there was going to be, I think it was like $300 billion investment on general infrastructure for AI. And I think, like,
mhm.
if I'm not mistaken, Amazon was putting like 100 million up. Microsoft put up 80 million.
Yes.
There's supposed to be like significant investment in there, because I think the future of a lot of different things is going to be focused on the use of AIs. And I've also been seeing a lot of AI agents that are
Mhm.
being discussed. So can you talk to our audience a little bit about what is an AI agent? What are some of the use cases that you've been, using for that?
So yes, I can. I'm gonna take a little step back further. AI agents been around when everybody started jumping on Chat GPT.
Mhm.
That's where it was a transition to the AI agent. And what the AI agent does is it's a full blown, almost a human like humanoid that actually does like the GPT. Because with Chat GPT, you have to put the AI into a mind frame of thinking. You can't just
A
go in
lot of
there.
context.
Yeah, yeah, you can't just go in there willy nilly. You got to have it prompt. And that's what an AI agent does. An AI agent is pretty much like an agent that you pre prompt to actually do a certain function. And you could have like a group of agents. One could be like your front desk clerk that would take in like the emails, and then you would have another agent that does like the UAT of the front desk clerk to verify and check the answer before it sends it back.
Hmm.
So the use case that I most recently worked on was AI agent group, and I use Crew AI. That's one of the foundations of AI agents, Crew.
Hmm.
They actually started it back a year ago. Excuse me, and they started pretty much like the the difference then is you had to at least have some type of framework with inside of a Visual Studio to actually code it and create the script to run.
Hmm.
But now AI agents are just drag and drop. But pretty much you would go in, set up your code, and then you would give it the prompt that will actually act as you'll be like your first agent. You would be like you are a help desk technician. You would take in the trouble tickets. You would create a remedy ticket or a spice work ticket, and once you create that ticket, pass it to agent number two, and then with agent number two, you would create a prompt that would make agent number two the engineer, and then you would prompt it to be like, okay, you are a engineer specialist. You specialize in bug fixes, code fixes. So pretty much you'll go pretty much deep diving into prompt creation, and
Hmm.
the AI agents will actually run in the background, and they would complete all your tasks, and then they would spit them back out to you without you having to go prompt having to go create the prompts and keep prompting and prompting and taking the answer, and then they will actually fact check it before they give you the information back. So that's why AI agents are real big right now, because they are kind of, I would say a lot of people are scared that AI is going to replace their jobs, and we'll get a little bit into that a little bit later. But what's happening is with AI agents, they are actually making the front desk tasks a lot easier. That you
Hmm.
could take your front desk person, right, and you could teach them how to set up the prompts and just fact check the AI agents as they run, and that's not really taking somebody away from their job. It's just helping them be able to. It's like being on steroids. It's helping them be 100 times smarter and faster and efficient with their
Hmm.
work to limit errors. So that's why when people say how AI is going to replace them, I think we need to stop thinking that AI is going to replace us, because AI needs us to run them, because we're going to have to have some type of control over AI.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that often confuses folks, and I think if I'm not mistaken, this is actually our first episode of this new year. But
Mhm.
I think I just started hearing very much so about AI agents. I guess at the beginning of this year. So I'd guess that maybe it's been around for at least the last 6 months.
Mhm.
There have been people who have been talking about training GPT models to basically work on a specific use case. Hey,
Yes.
I know I had experimented a while back with trying to create one to just basically do grant applications for my nonprofit, for
Mhm.
example, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of different use cases for them, but the marketing that I've been seeing for a lot of companies is not just, hey, AI is, being used to monitor your network traffic or identify
Mhm.
threats and, all of those things that we typically see if you go to those trade show type,
Yes.
conferences. But it's more so it's been like, hey, we can use AI agents to basically automate a lot of aspects of your
Mhm.
day to day. So for the small and medium sized businesses, for example, it's, hey, we're not necessarily replacing people, because I think a lot of people assume that when you say AI, you think about the Jetsons back in the day, right? That it's replacing the jobs and it's just going to take over. But to your point, it's more so these are just going to help enhance and allow us to be able to do, more beneficial things, right? So
Yes.
does that seem like it's on track with
Ye-
your understanding?
yes. Yes. It's 100% on track, and pretty much it goes a little bit deeper than automation, because technically speaking, right, you could go use make.io or make.com to actually automate those tasks,
Hmm.
and that'd be quick and easy to do. With the agents, it's pretty much another layer to that. Like an agent, I would go as far as saying an agent is pretty much similar to a human being,
Hmm.
but artificial intelligence humanoid, pretty much. because it actually, you could go inside a portal and just type out your task and it could run your task and it could do the thinking for you. But on the other hand, with AI doing the thinking for you, it becomes to a point that we got to realize as AI grows, right? It's going to run out of data that it could be trained on, because at the rate is the LLMs is learning information and taking up the information that we put out, we can't put out enough data and information that the LLM or the AI could keep training on, because at some point it's going to have hallucination of the information and it's going to start spitting out like random stuff. Because if you
Yes.
think about it, yeah, if you think about it, they have another thing that they try to do is AI reasonable thinking, that the AI
Mm,
could think for itself. That's kind of scary, because we haven't even got to the full process of governance around AI. Like, you have people trying to figure out, like with the NIST and FedRAMP, on how to put the guardrails around AI. And for example, with DeepSeek, right?
mm,
DeepSeek drops, it comes out with this AI that's mind blowing. But little people know DeepSeek's been out for a while. They just jumped out there because of everything that's going on government wise. So it's all right, cool. This, y'all doing this, we're gonna go ahead and drop our R1 and just impact your market and impact what you're doing. And I think people finally realize, like, it's stuff that goes on the back end, because you could train a LLM on top of an existing LLM and make it better than the last LLM. So it's like a rat race. It's like
for sure.
everybody is in a rat race right now, trying to be the supreme superior AI country or AI organization, when they're not really thinking about governance and protecting the end user. So right now we dumping stuff in these modules and in these LLMs, and we just pretty much free willing. Even in America, we free willing giving information to these AI agents. And I actually build LLMs and I build the infrastructure around them, and most of the information stays there. It's like a remediation process that whatever you type in, it actually stays in there,
Mm,
in the backlog. So it's like that stuff doesn't go away. But I think, taking a step back, and sorry for going off track,
okay.
that the biggest concern right now is governance around machine learning, artificial intelligence, and just the guardrails around LLMs and things like that. Because as I mentioned a few minutes ago, once this LLM start training and the AI starts training on top of it and starts learning how to speak to itself, which is already doing, but start to almost think like we do, that's going to become an issue, because it's going to start having like hallucinations and dreams and stuff like that, and imagination. How can you control a bot having an imagination, having to think, and then you're not able to produce enough data to give it the realization, because now it's already thinking for itself and it has its own train of thought. So that's the scary part on where it's going. And I don't think anybody's thinking about that. It's just get it out there quick. Just like the NFT space. When the NFT space was booming, everybody's like, oh yeah, we got these NFTs. And what happened? People started getting scammed because people didn't think about it through the whole thing, and there was no governance around it. That's the same thing like meme coins.
Yeah.
It's no governance around it. It's about the quick get rich scheme. And that's the scary part of AI. Like, it's a good tool, but it's no full governance or no guardrails right now.
Yeah, I think you mentioned on a couple of points that I want to kind of dig into. The first one is DeepSeek, and
Mhm.
honestly, I think that they're out here playing chess, and everybody else is playing checkers. I think that to your point, it's been around for a while.
Mhm.
And the fact that they just dropped it, I think it was very strategic, just based off of the things that were going on in the United States, because it had a
Yeah.
very wide ranging impact on a lot of the markets. When you look at, for example, the stock market, when you look at just the technology sector as a whole, it
Mhm.
kind of like shook people up for, I want to say, like a few weeks.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found most important, or most impressive to me, is that when they came out, they're like, hey, not only did we do it, but we did it with I think it was like a fraction of the cost that
Mhm.
for example, OpenAI used to basically train their models, right? So
Mhm.
they're like, hey, this is less energy consumption, this is less data that's being used, this is basically better all around, right? But then
Yes.
it came out, at least word on the street was that they had basically used, ChatGPT to basically train their model. And,
Yes.
they had, I guess, got cut off from being able to access the model,
Mhm.
I think, which is one of the the problems that you've run into when you talk about people who are basically building AIs on top of,
Mhm.
other AIs, So I think
Yes.
that's been super interesting. And then they also, I think I heard tell that they were using something like 50,000 NVIDIA cores or
Yeah.
something to make it
Yes.
happen or something,
Yes.
which is amazing for the NVIDIA folks,
Mhm.
but maybe not so much for, OpenAI. So
Yes.
I kind of feel, a lot of the news that's going in the AI space today. I saw that that guy had put out a like maybe a $10 billion offer to buy OpenAI, and
Mhm.
the owner was kind of like, "Yeah, get out of here.
Mhm.
I'll give you that same amount to buy, your platform." And
Yes.
a lot of trading back and forth.
Mhm.
So, I think it's all very strategic, just meant to, position and jockey themselves for,
Mhm.
to be a leader in the space and to be,
Yes.
seen, which is interesting because, a lot of it's being thrown out there, without any fact checking, without any, confirmation of what they're saying is true. It's just being
Mhm.
thrown out there. And I think that a lot of people are approaching AI in that same way. I come from a software testing background, and the reality is that most people, push a product to market and then they worry about security, they worry about testing,
Mhm.
they worry about all those things as an afterthought. And I think that a
Yes.
lot of folks are treating AI with the same way, F the frameworks, F the governance, F the
Mhm.
ethical and safety considerations. We're gonna throw it out there and see what happens. And I think that
Yes.
the problem is with that, and there's a lot of problems with it, but one of the biggest in my mind is the safety aspect, right? Because we don't know, what the outcome is going to be. So there's no telling, what could possibly happen because there's no checks and balances. And
Yes.
generally, I think government is behind the ball, behind the eight ball in terms of, new technologies and things are going
Mhm.
out here. So, things will be able to take over the world before they even realize, what even had happened, before they've caught up as
Yeah.
far as a governance perspective.
Yes. I 100% agree with you because if you think about and I jump back to the two guys in a second, but we think about when it comes to government, right? Government. You remember when the cloud infrastructure boom was booming, right?
Yeah,
It took them forever to this point, right? They still trying to get in the cloud space,
catch up.
and they
Yep.
still trying to figure out their posture in the cloud space. They don't know if they want to go AWS, Google, or Azure. Sorry. So they still trying to figure it out to this day. And most of them are adopting the hybrid cloud framework,
Mm-hmm.
which is good because that gives you a capability to traverse across if you get DDoS attacked to this move over to another cloud platform. But it's just weird that what I'm seeing from the government is they are trying to jump on AI faster than they was trying to adapt to the cloud, which is an issue for the simple fact, right? They don't have any governance around how they're going to ingest the LLM because you could affect the LLM, you could poison it, LLM, if you don't scan it. So that's one thing that's they're going to end up dealing with. But from what you stated, the thing is the reason why he's trying to buy OpenAI is because OpenAI is pretty much partially owned by Microsoft, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you go look at how Microsoft has a huge footprint inside of the government with Azure and Azure Gov, right? Why wouldn't you want to buy OpenAI? Because technically, you don't have to go through all those loopholes of FedRAMP
Mm-hmm.
and all those things because they already have the imprint and the customer base because a lot of agencies already adapted Copilot and Copilot is already full in effect at a couple agencies. So that's why it would be smart to buy OpenAI, but it's kind of weird that that is even being talked about because I was if Microsoft owns half of OpenAI, then it's like, are you buying Microsoft too? That's the weird part. And I know you have you ever heard the old saying, the smartest man in the room is never really the smartest.
Mm-hmm.
And the other saying is it takes in order to be a leader, you have to be led. And so I'm gonna leave those two things there. And
I feel you, but honestly, I think that it's all very much so tied together,
Mhm.
because you have this one guy who's basically wreaking havoc through the
Yes.
United States government right now. And
Hmm.
then in the back end, I hear tell of different contracts, right? So
Hmm.
if you combine, I think the larger picture of, basically them doing what they're doing as far as trying to restructure the government, minimize it, make it more efficient, whatever it is that they call themselves doing, and you try to combine that with the fact that they're trying to basically acquire, open AI,
Mm-hmm.
it seems very strategic to me from a business perspective, because
Yes.
I don't necessarily know that those two folks even necessarily like each other.
No,
But I
they
think that it's from a financial perspective that this is part of the long game for them. It's,
yeah,
we're going to play nice so that we can get some money and,
yes.
run away with the money, just be rich,
Yes,
and
and you making that statement, right? And I'm not a conspiracy theorist or nothing like that, but I've been having this thought in my mind, right? And shout out to my partnership with Microsoft because I'm in a AI partnership. Actually, I build software for them. What's going to happen, right? Is I think with the removing of government jobs, I think that this is where we're going to see a huge spike in AI agents taking
absolutely.
over some of those roles. And I think that's why I think that's why he's trying to get stake in it, is because I think a lot of those roles that are going to be left vacant are going to end up getting taken over by AI agents and that type of infrastructure, because AI agents could do all the help desk work, all the procurement work. It could even read RPs and do all the all of that type of work to procure contracts. So that's why I'm thinking that's why they're trying to build out that infrastructure to kind of make people quit so that they could use AI infrastructure to save money on the back end.
Absolutely, because I think that when you look at the market share, to your point, a lot of the companies that basically are able to bid on those super large contracts today, those are the ones that basically have a foothold in that space. And
Hmm.
I honestly think, and I try not to be a conspiracy theorist too much,
Yeah.
but I honestly think that this is all a bid for XAI to be able to get a lot of those contracts, and they need more market space, and for them, you know acquiring
Yeah.
OpenAI, I think would absolutely make sense in terms of giving them the market presence that they would need to be able to actually be
Yes.
a competitor in the space.
Yeah.
But I really think it comes down to dollars and cents, because
Hmm.
if the focus was security, if the focus was ethics, if the focus was
Hmm.
actually making sure that we are better positioned, that we are made great again, I
Hmm.
would think that there would be some more structure, some more, hey, let's pause, take a beat, and like
Hmm.
figure out what kind of guardrails we need to put on in order to make these things possible. Because I
Yes.
mean, the reality is that we're kind of like just going into the wild west at this point, and it's
Hmm.
like, hey, come what may, we gonna see what happens. It's like, hey, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
take my chance, and then it is what it
Yeah.
is at that point.
Yeah. And that is good points, because coming from your security background, right? The worst enemy for anybody is always security. So if you get so if you go in willy nilly like Wild West and you just put the stuff there, and that's pretty much what they're doing right now, right? They going in all these agencies, and I hate to use the terminology like robbing them, like sticking the guns up and taking over their systems and putting their own systems in there. So it is
I honestly think
where's
they're training their models. I'm
yeah,
not gonna
yeah,
lie to you. I
that's what they're
honestly
doing.
think that that's
Hmm.
what they're doing with all of that data and all that system. They're saying like, hey, there's nothing that's going to make us, a larger presence than having all of the institutional knowledge
Hmm.
that comes from all of the government processes and procedures.
Hmm.
And what's the fastest way for you to do that? You claim that you're auditing, and you claim that you're basically evaluating the
Hmm.
effectiveness and the efficiency of the government and rooting out waste. But the
Hmm.
reality is that from a data perspective, that's what the money is. That's,
Yeah,
I'm saying,
and
that
yep.
information, that institutional knowledge, and then being able to control those systems. So
Hmm.
imagine if you're applying for I'm in a nonprofit space outside of like my day job, and if you're applying for government grants, whatever, that money is going to go to companies that basically play that game. There's no
Yes,
one that's going to know how to play the game better than the person that basically helped develop the
build
model,
it.
which can basically say, hey, this is what it is that we're looking for. You pretty much
Hmm.
guarantee that you and your people are able to basically get all of the contracts, to get all of the grants,
Hmm.
to get all of the things. So the reality is that I think that a lot of the stuff that we see going on, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and a lot of
Hmm.
news. And one of my group chats, they basically call it like, they're DDoSing us with
Yeah.
overload of information and things that are going on. And it's, look here, look here, look here. You don't know, what I'm saying? There's so many things that are going
Hmm.
on that there's you can't focus on, I think, the underlying play, which in my mind is, you know the data. I
Hmm.
think that's what it comes down to. The
Yes.
biggest one of the, at least in the DMV area, and I think you're from the DMV as well.
Yeah.
A lot of the things that make this area move and shake are based off of like government contracting. There's
Hmm.
literally billions of dollars of contracts that are available in this space. Imagine if you have the inside, like you're literally in
Hmm.
the White House. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That's why I think part of the reason why they're like throwing out a lot of the ethics organizations, a lot of
Hmm.
the oversight organizations, because they want to be able to do what they're doing without basically the checks and balances that are typically in place.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That is 100% accurate. And if you look and you look at the history of, and I hate to say I'm a Tesla owner, but I'm about to sorry, I'm about to be rid of that vehicle. But if you look
You
at the
got a
history,
Cybertruck, sir?
no, I would. They keep calling me to come get it, but I didn't go get it. So
Okay.
that tells you, because I'm more of, and I was with him for a long time, like before I seen the other side, because now I'm seeing the true side, and it's like what's in the dark comes to light.
Hmm.
Yes, yes. So I do believe, as you stated, that they are getting the data and they are training the data. But here's the thing, right? If they get the data and they train the data, it's always ways that we could reverse engineer what they're doing to kind of, because and it's gonna get weird, because I'm almost feeling like the movie Terminator.
Hmm.
That is that's gonna be bot wars.
Hmm.
And that reminds me of back in the day with things like RC and those old chats, relay chats, where
Hmm.
we used to have bot wars, where we used to go DDoS the whole channel. It's gonna get like that, but I don't know how bad it's gonna get, because right now AI still in the 1% state, and that might sound kind of weird that I'm saying that it's still at 1%, because I still feel as though only 1% of the world uses it,
Hmm.
or accurately knows how to use it. Because there's a lot of people that could go in there, and I always tell people, when you use AI, you put junk in, you're gonna get junk out. So it's a
Absolutely.
lot of yeah, so it's a lot of the people still putting junk in and getting junk out. And the scary thing is, when you look at the White House administration that put those people in over the government, right? They are, and it's funny, like I'm in the underground too, because you got to be in the underground to actually know what's going on and to kind of keep track of things that's going on. And that's just my cyber security hat, right? In
Hmm.
order to be a good cybersecurity person, you gotta know everything that's going on in like the hacking world and stuff like that. And most of those people that are actually in those positions are of the background of that. So,
I've
so
been I've been seeing some of that as some of the backgrounds of these people who are going through the in the, I think it's like the Doge agency or something
mhm,
like that. I've been seeing as they've been basically releasing some of those their background information, like
yeah,
some of where they come from, and they're typically not people who would,
we
I
get
guess, be
hired by the government.
eligible. Yeah, who will be eligible for a top secret, because I imagine if you've got to go through the government agencies like you do, you got to have a
Mhm,
top secret. And I know that they've been looking at me like, hey, what's up with this deposit right here, or what's up with this thing that
yeah,
you was doing back here, what I'm saying? And they people who are not even necessarily doing anything.
mhm,
And so the fact that they're just letting these folks run just through the government right now just seems crazy to me. But I assume it's part of a larger plan. But I guess to get back on to AI
mhm.
related topics and away from the conspiracy theories, have you had a chance to play with the DeepSeek? Have you, and some of the other models? Which ones are you looking out for? Which one are you checking
Uh,
for these days?
ethically speaking, knowing what they're about to do with DeepSeek, I haven't touched DeepSeek.
Okay.
Because
I
yeah.
cannot
So we're
confirm or
not going down
deny.
that. Yeah, the denial clause.
Understood.
But the Alibaba one was is fairly good too. But let me be 100% transparent. DeepSeek is actually good. The reason why DeepSeek got shut down was for the simple fact of how good it was.
Hmm.
But when you think about just consumer competition, right? If I want to control the market and I want to tell you that, oh, okay, I have this LLM that is the greatest LLM, I'm gonna tell you anything and everything to let you know that, oh, I traded in one day. I only used a Dell laptop, right? People gonna know, oh, okay, okay, that's not real. So that's why I'm thinking like, even though DeepSeek said that they did this and that, we both know that there's around before that.
Mhm,
So technically speaking, they might have did that to build up a buzz to sway the market and sway the users.
mhm,
So, but it is a great tool and it is great for creating AI agents and
mhm.
those tasks. And if you notice, when DeepSeek dropped, OpenAI created that operation agent, operation agent
I saw that.
right after. So that should tell you something right there. And then they working, and then they drop, I think, 03 or something. They dropped like the new, yeah. So they already had that stuff in line. They were just setting on it.
Mhm,
But at the end of the day, I can't verify the cost of what they claiming that they spent to get it running, DeepSeek running. But I do know, and you have accurate information that they did train on top of, on I think 4.0. I think they trained on top of 4.0
it's word on the
to
street anyway.
yeah, to get to where they need to get to. And that's the thing. Like, if anybody, well, whoever's listening to this, I think when you start to think about this space, don't be scared to experiment on taking an LM that's already existing and taking it and then training it with another LM. Like, combining LMs is going to actually put you a step ahead, and a lot of people not thinking about that, right? If you combine Claude, Gemini, and OpenAI, you combine those and then train those based on what your niche or what you're trying to do. That will
Mhm.
put you ahead of a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with that. We already see what happened with DeepSeek, and that put them a mile ahead of OpenAI, and that stirred up competition. So,
Absolutely. So for people who are interested in getting to AI, right? Because you've been training agents, you've been building up infrastructure.
mhm,
Just for I guess someone who is like thinking about, hey, I want to just make sure I stay current. What are some of the what are the models you're using? What are the some of the tools that you're using? How could somebody basically get up to speed as far as what they need to know and how to do these things?
so I would say start out with learning the basics, like creating prompts, learning how to prompt engineer, because that's the foundation. And then from prompt engineering, once you get the basics down, learning how to get your prompts to run, I would say go into a product like Make, or Zapper to start doing automation. That's the basic for automation. And then once you get to there, I would say start get on X and start following different people that actually build apps and use AI to build apps.
Mhm,
Because right now, I'm gonna tell you the honest truth, app building based on a basic GPT or OpenAI is a gold mine.
mhm.
So if anybody wants to start, I would say start right there, because you could start right there with no knowledge on how to code and actually build an app to make money.
Absolutely. I've been seeing a lot of the Discord because I've been minding people's business on X,
Hmm.
frequently, and I've been seeing a lot of think pieces, in what is it, 160 characters or less, or whatever that
Hmm.
is, where people are talking about the best GPTs to be used for coding
Hmm.
purposes, right? I've seen some people basically say that they can use like a Chat GPT or whatever to
Hmm.
develop code, and then
Yes.
the code won't compile. You can it won't. I know I've tried to use code for different purposes, and
Hmm.
then it's been like this is not working. This is not, especially when I was going through my machine learning class,
Hmm.
when I was trying to figure out like, hey, how to understand these models from a conceptual level, and how do you basically do the analysis.
Hmm.
um do you have any thoughts on what the best one is if someone wanted best tools to use, or is it just whoever you happen to be following?
So when it comes to anything code based, right? I would start off just getting Visual Studio, right? And then connecting Visual Studio to Bolt.new,
Mm-hmm.
Bolt.new is the best coding and application building product around right now. You can actually use it through their website, or you could use it in Visual Studio Code. They have a GitHub
Mm-hmm.
that you could connect straight to their GitHub, and you can actually build it out, and that will actually save you money from using it through their portal. That right there is actually a gold mine for building
Mm-hmm.
apps. It's on top of ChatGPT, but they do all the prompting, and that's where a lot of people have issues when they go straight to ChatGPT, because you have to put the GPT in a mind frame to actually be
Yeah,
a coder.
setting the context and
Yes. One day we could probably have another pod that I could show you prompting and things like that too, to how to easily get it to prompt faster and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I would say anybody trying to code, it'll be Bolt.new is one of the best out right now, and it's actually fast and accurate. And that's what we use for most of building applications right now.
Awesome. So when it comes to, I think you said that you've been basically developing agents for different companies, things of that nature. I think that there are a lot of, especially as they're reducing the size of the government, you've worked in the government contracting space for a while now. So they don't necessarily have the, I guess, the expertise that they need. For someone who wanted to get into this space today, what would you suggest as far as learning, as far as certifications? Is there anything out there that basically helps you to establish, hey, this is my credibility, if you would, in what is basically a very new market?
I would say start out with the basic certifications. Probably get a couple cloud certifications, because if you get into government space, a lot of them are moving to the cloud. So you could probably get your Amazon cloud certs or your Microsoft cloud certs. I think it's like AZ 900.
Hmm.
Start off with AZ 900, then go to the Azure Architect one, and then also get Azure AI. Azure AI is a good cert to have for the AI space, because what's happening is, knowing that OpenAI and Microsoft has a partnership, though having that Azure AI cert is going to actually put you in a space that you're going to be able to get a contract based on that Azure cert with Azure. Well, let me not say Azure AI, but it's Microsoft AI. And
Hmm.
if you know, Microsoft in their portal is called OpenAI, because they use OpenAI as the backbone. So if you get that cert, that will actually put you in a space to be able to get a contract. And then always the infamous one is Security Plus.
Hmm.
If you want a clearance, that
Yeah,
one.
that's
And
the
also,
foundation, Security
yes,
Plus.
that. And then the Cisco one could actually, if you can't get the Security Plus, it's the Cisco Security one that they have. I think they
Oh, interesting.
relabeled it. That will actually pass as a DoD
8570.
cert. Mhm. Yeah, so that actually passes that. But I would say those certs, and then find a mentor, find somebody that could mentor you, and just start building. Like, it's get hands on, start building. Like, use. I know Microsoft has like a free 1 year. Get in there, build like a lab, and start messing with LLMs that way, or just put them on your computer. That would be the foundation.
Absolutely. So a lot of folks, I think it's generally accepted that we're at like artificial narrow intelligence at this point. But some folks have claimed that, with some of the things that they're seeing that we've actually gotten to AGI. Where do you think we are today as far as, the evolution of what is LLMs and artificial intelligence and machine learning?
So we are already there. And that's why a lot of people saying that that's the next thing, because when you think about it, right? Last year around this time, we was already past, like, everybody else was talking about Chat GPT, Claude, and all the front end AI products, right? But we was already in AI agents. So we've
Hmm.
been in AI agents for a whole year. So AIG is actually right now. Like, everything that's happening is always a year ahead, and then everybody else catches up. So that's why I was saying, like, if you could get on top of the next thing now, then you'll be ahead, because right now everybody's trying to get caught up with the AI agents, and they already on the next thing. So that's why it's all this posturing and fighting to get all this infrastructure stood up, because a lot of companies are already there. They just haven't fully blown it out because of the fear of, once again, hallucination of the AI.
Hmm.
That's what they ran into. They're already running into that issue, because they were saying the way they've been training the LLM for AGI is so fast that it's running out of data to train on, and they don't have enough data to keep training it. So now it's training on other agents. So it's actually training on top of an AI, which is
Hmm.
causing a hallucinogens in the information that it's putting out. That is like dreaming, but it's thinking further ahead than it could grasp.
Gotcha. And so as far as one day getting to ASI for artificial super intelligence, what are you thinking? Are we talking about 3 to 5 years? Are we talking 10 years of next week? What do you think?
I think my man's already on top of that, because I saw a post the other day that said that he's going to start opening it up for people to get a chip inside their brain.
Oh, the the Neuralink or
Yeah,
whatever.
Yes, and I wouldn't doubt that. I honestly wouldn't doubt that. I
I
honestly
don't know.
wouldn't
Like
doubt it.
I'm on the fence because I feel like half the stuff that comes out of that man's mouth is BS. And I think that there's also a lot of financial benefit in
Mhm,
overestimating your capabilities
mhm,
to go to market. We think about some of the very high profile cases where you've had these companies that have had come on the market, super flashy, billion
mhm.
dollar valuations like off the break, and then once you lift back the curtains, or whatever that the saying is, then it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. And it's I
Yeah.
think about the lady that was the one. I think it was like the blood company or whatever. They were like, "Oh, this is the newest thing in the
Yeah.
world. Like we can analyze blood so much quicker." And then they were like, "Hey, it was all theory and not so much
Mhm,
like in practice that they were able to do things." They were like, "Hey, this could possibly be," but they didn't actually have the
mhm,
product. They didn't have any functioning model. And I think that when we're talking about AI, a
mhm.
lot of the stuff that they say, you're gonna have to show me. Like Pixar didn't happen
Yeah. Yeah.
because.
Yeah. Because but that takes us way back to what we was discussing like a little while ago. DeepSeek, right? DeepSeek was all this theory, like, oh yeah, we was able to build this with less power, less strength,
Right.
and they never showed the track records to that. It was more of talking, and then coming to find out all this other stuff started getting leaked. Oh, you trained on top of this model, or you stole. Well, let me not say they stole, but theoretically speaking,
Acquired.
yeah, they acquired a lot of Nvidia cards that never reached to where they need to reach. So yeah, but I think with that guy though. I'm starting to I think he has because to be honest, he has enough money to actually make it happen.
Hmm.
And so, I want to talk about another guy, but that takes us off in the rabbit hole. Kanye West. He
Hmm.
reminds me of him. Like
I can see it.
somebody like and my grandma used to always tell me like people like that, they're like very intelligent to the point that if they don't surround themselves with other intelligent people, then they get off in this space of knowing everything and they
Hmm.
become dangerous. So knowing him, I think he has enough power and he has the mind that he's gonna make it happen. It's just a matter of time of when. And I think him being able to be in this position now is allowing him to get people that are highly intelligent to
Absolutely.
flock to him like almost like he's leading like a dictatorship.
Hmm.
A lot of people are flocking to him to pretty much work for free. So
Because I mean, in the long term, what I'm saying. If you're talking about, like I said, this is chess. This is not checkers.
mhm,
In the long term, I think that he has the power and the influence and the money today
mhm,
to get the right people that can make it happen. You know what I'm saying? And how do you
mhm,
do that? You say, hey, I saw the other day, he posted something. He was like, hey, here's a balance sheet. Could somebody tell me, what you think about this, or what the scope of this, or if there's anything going on? And what you basically have is basically these internet investigators.
no,
And honestly, hands down, don't nobody find out stuff the way that people on Twitter
uh,
find out. You know what I'm saying? Or X or whatever it's called today. Like he's basically getting free labor,
mhm,
and he can basically use that free labor to basically provide inspiration to his very small team. And
mhm,
the reality is those people are probably making dumb money. I think I saw
yeah,
something like they had asked for $8 million for that particular week, according to the news. And I was like, y'all burning through $8 million. What are
yeah,
these people making? You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and that's yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. I think once because you already know he turned on the fastest supercomputer to mankind, so he already quote unquote turned that on. I think like last week. So I think the move that he's gonna make is if he gets that open AI, acquire that, right? That's gonna give him enough power and enough resources to actually start allowing to put those chips in our brains.
yeah,
Which
look, and we don't have the FDA or those regulatory bodies. Basically, they're
yeah,
diminished at this point. They're basically fighting for their lives, for survival at this point.
and-
I feel like that's how you you
yeah,
you get it done. You know what I'm saying?
and,
There's
and
no
that's
oversight, no
and that's
enforcement of
crazy.
those policies. It is.
And
It
that's
is.
crazy because I think and we're going off down the rabbit hole, but this is all part of AI. So just let the audience know this is still talking about technology and AI because what we're seeing right now is a strong gesture and movement to pushing the technology. And as you know, government, like we stated earlier, has always been behind on technology advances.
Mhm.
So now with this new administration in it, they pushing the technology to where it needs to be. And like you said, they have all the data in the world now to actually train on and to use. So they have all the power to push it to where it needs to go.
And no
So
regulatory oversight,
no, no, nope.
which
And
is
they knocking out all the powers that to actually control everything. So that's the thing. Like if you get rid of all those powers and all those guardrails, then you could go in and put up with what you need up there and then worry about it later.
absolutely. So I think we talked about like what the current state is. We talked a little bit about what the history is. So what does the future look like for you? What are your predictions as far as, who do you think is going to be winning this AI race? Who are going to be the people to look out for? What are some of the technologies that are going to be, hitting mainstream, everyday use for the future of AI?
So I think for the future AI is going to be more advancements on pretty much like video and voice is becoming huge. It's already there, but it's becoming another huge part of AI. So I think that's going to advance more that like when you do like a podcast, like how many you talking right now,
Mhm.
we won't even have to actually be here. It'll be an image of me and you actually interacting how we interacting. That is a huge push right now. But I think the biggest issue and what's going to kind of pivot us a little bit is going backwards to securing everything. Because, from a security standpoint, right? Once you start locking out everything, you're going to have to go backwards to get
Building
everything to work
right.
again. So I think that's going to happen probably within the next year or two once they push everything out in the government space and AI
Mhm.
gets in the government space, they're going to find out we're going to get a lot more breaches. And if you have noticed, we've seen a lot of increase, which is the future AI. We've seen a lot of increase in vulnerabilities, like hackers starting to use our voices. Like they send like a dummy call to you. As soon as you pick up the dummy call and you start talking, what they doing now is they taking the voice and they using like voice tools, like Nine Labs,
To
to actually
train them.
recreate the
Yeah.
voice. Yeah, to train the voice so that they can hold your family ransom. So we seen a lot of that. We seen a lot of more email hacking and phishing based on AI. But I think it's going to be more robotics. I think robotics is going to become huge. I think that's going to be the huge transition of AI because right now we're doing like the brain work of the robot.
Mhm.
And now it's going to be more of putting it inside the robot and let the robot start to interact like how we interact.
Absolutely. I actually saw a pretty cool thing the other day where there was a guy who was modeling a technology. He had basically said that he had used this technology to basically get through, I think it was like all the levels for an Amazon leak code interview or something like that. And basically, he was off doing whatever he wanted to do. And he basically had what was an AI like deep fake of himself, basically on screen, answering the questions, feeding it real time in, and then, providing answers and responses to the things. And he was like, hey, I'm able to use this technology to successfully get a job at some of these, FANG companies. And, I think that that's going to be, I think revolutionary for the industry in terms of hiring, in terms of, do we actually have to go to work? Because if I can put up like an AI version of myself and I could be somewhere on a beach in Aruba, I'm going to be on Aruba, you know what I'm saying? And I'm going to have the AI me basically just, ping me in when you need me for
Yeah,
something.
yeah, and that's scary because that's actually happening now.
It is. It,
That's why I think it took a while for AI agents to become a thing, because what was happening was people was learning how to create AI agents, and they was actually having an AI agent be that work for them in the public sector more because in the public sector they don't scan your computers as much as
hmm.
government. So that became a big thing. So that's gonna be huge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm looking forward to that because I would 100% love to basically collect my check and not have to actually do anything, especially if I could like just put all of my, knowledge that I've learned over the course of my 20-year career at this point into a model and train it and then just have it be like Tennisha at work and make the money. That would be absolutely freaking amazing. But, I think that that's what a lot of these companies are doing is that, to your point earlier, they're creating applications, they're putting out things that solve problems for people, and it's allowing them to be able to basically, make passive income where they don't actually have to do anything other than, spend time training the models and providing the context and deciding what it is they, wanted to do. So, I think I'm looking forward to that if they can make that happen without me getting fired.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. As long as like, have you ever seen? There's a lot of them floating around now, but like faceless. Instagram and YouTubes that actually have models and stuff.
I've
Yeah, so
actually
that
seen the commercials or the advertisements for those on social
mhm,
media. They're like, "Hey, this is the way to make money. You create a faceless." And I've been
yeah.
seeing like the little, you've seen like the little dice that are like, and they basically just have like dice that are talking to each other and just saying things that people relate to. And it's got like hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
followers. And I'm just like,
y-
what you mean? Like some
mhm,
dice. And then they have like cute little things. And it's like, there's not actual person behind them. It's just basically like an AI understanding what
mhm.
people like and then just generating more of that content. And honestly, I think that's going to
Yep.
change a lot of the ways that we interact with social media. I know for me, it's a turnoff at this point because I
Yeah.
try not to spend a lot of time on social media because a lot of it's fake. And I'll start reading a story that I think is absolutely true. And then I'm
Oh.
like, oh, this is one of them stupid, things where it's, somebody that made it up for clicks or
Mhm,
whatever. So I'm excited, but then also cautiously optimistic
mhm.
because again, there's no oversight, there's no ethics, there's no
Y-
none of the things.
Yeah, and that's another thing for the audience to know is what we just talked about right there, right? That is a way to get in and figure out a solution for that. If you can figure out a solution for that now, then when it becomes an issue, right? Which it is going to become an issue, then you already have the app that you could market to local businesses or like commercial businesses, and then find like an RFP or RFQ or RFI and market it to the government because that's going to be well. Let me not say that's going to be that is an issue right now because trust me, they don't know the difference between AI and human at this point. So so
Absolutely. And I think that might
so
be the next thing. I was actually just thinking to myself, I was like, I need to go ahead and make like a ad blocker, but for AI. You know what I'm saying? Like,
mhm,
I don't want to see any AI generated content. I don't want to see, you know what I'm saying? Because
yeah.
the reality is that I want to see like actual people, actual
Mhm.
stories, not things that people are manufacturing. And I think that the future of music, the future of like movies, I can see us basically, not even needing actors anymore, because, they're taking their voice, they're taking their demeanor, they're taking, basically who they are and putting it on a screen somewhere. So, I think that there's a lot of things at play in terms of some of the ways that we're going to start seeing this technology evolve over in the coming years.
Yeah, yes, I totally agree. And we pretty much dropped a couple of gems that if anybody listening, you could come up with a solution. To be honest, and the thing is, a lot of people think like this space don't think of competition because in all honesty, it's wide open. Like you could take something that's already created and add a twist to it and resell it. Like it's never think about competition in this AI space. A lot of people think about competition, but the only person you compete with is yourself. Yourself.
Absolutely.
Don't wait. Like figure it out. We just dropped a couple of gems just now, and we dropped a tool earlier that will actually help you build an app. So there you go.
Old dot new.
Yeah.
We are not being sponsored yet.
Nope. We should.
All right, cool. So, Nick, how do folks connect with you online? How can they find out more about your company? Where are you at? How can they reach you?
So they can reach me on LinkedIn, which is Nicholas Berry. And then also they can reach me at trinitytechaid.com or mbkio.com or nicholasberryjr.com. So those are all my profiles. Nicholas Berry Jr. is pretty much like my repo of all the products that I work on.
I was actually checking that out earlier today.
Yeah, so that's the repo, all my projects that I work on. So that's if you need any information. I'm going to be dropping soon a mentorship program. Like we actually working on the site right now. That's going to be like a mentorship program for AI that allow you to come in, work on projects as we work on them to actually get you hands-on experience. We will actually have an environment that's already built, tools available, and stuff like that. So once I get that ready, I will send you over the information so that you can let your audience know.
Dope.
But yes, so anything you can find me on those social media, Instagram stuff. I don't be on these days because
Taking
I'm
over the
trying to
world.
yeah, I'm trying to keep the business mind frame and trying to tune out the noise because what I realized like this year, it's going to be a lot of distractions. So you got to stay focused. So my goal this year is to keep focused because it's been a lot of distractions on everything that's going on around me and it's going on around all of us. So the goal is to stay focused. So you gotta eliminate distractions to accomplish goals this year. And I feel as though this is the same as when COVID happened. A lot of people missed the opportunities during COVID to start businesses
Hmm.
and get businesses running. And I think this is a rebirth of that opportunity to actually, for these next 4 years, block everything out, get tunnel vision, and don't worry about what's going on around you, like the economy and all that stuff. It's time to lock in, build these tools, get well versed in AI, because right now it's the 1%. So get in the 1% because it's a gold mine.
What's up? So, quick question. I just found out where you're from before we started. So, can you let the folks know where you hail from?
Oh, I hail from Kenilworth Avenue, Washington,
Hey,
D.C. Born,
yeah.
born and raised.
Shout out. I'm
I
actually
don't,
from the Kenilworth area, so
yeah,
absolutely love that.
and I don't
Such a
call them
small world.
commanders. I call them Redskins still,
That's your business.
and bullets.
All right. Well, this has been another episode of AI Thoughts Online. I'm the host, Tennisha Martin, and we will catch you on the flip side. Have a good day.